Hi, welcome to the Stitch TV show. I'm Lynn.
And I'm Pam. We're happy you're joining us today. The Stitch is an online quilt talk show. It is the perfect soundtrack for your sewing room. We also prepare weekly tutorials and virtual stitch-ins, as well as book clubs. You can learn more at thestitchtvshow.com.
Our show today is brought to you by our friends at EnMart and QT Fabrics. You can learn more about them in the links in the show notes.
So, in exciting news, I use the Iris Ultra Bright Poly all over this quilt.
Yay.
I came and raided your stash.
You did. I saw that.
Because I needed some reds and like a lot of cream. I think I went, one that I had, but I finished off a spool of cream.
Oh.
With all the cross-hatching and the micro-stippling in the background on this one.
So, and just honestly, how did you like sewing with it?
I love it because it smooths very smoothly through my machine. And I've only used it on my sit-down machine. I have a Handy Quilter Sweet 16, and it works great with that. And didn't have any trouble, which is nice. Even when I needed to change a needle because I may have dropped a needle through a safety pin.
Oh, really?
And thought, well, that was a loud noise I didn't expect to hear. Whoops.
Oops.
Thought I was going to throw my timing off. Didn't. Whoops.
That's good.
Thread didn't break.
Really?
Needle didn't break either, fortunately. But it was like, the machine was like, you should stop.
Yeah.
It's
like something happened. Let's correct
Something's
this.
going on. But yeah, thread didn't break.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. So yeah, I really enjoy it.
I used it in part of the last quilt you also saw last show, but I didn't have as many colors, so there's a bunch of different thread types, but I did enjoy the ones that I had and used it. It was great.
Yeah. Well, and even more exciting news, we have some new QT fabrics on the table. This is their Retro Minis line.
And I love this little retro mini. I want the tigers.
You can't have the tigers.
I know. We're going to give this away.
There's little jets.
And little jets.
There's excitement on the production staff.
The production
Sadly,
staff just went
family
nuts.
members of the Stitch TV show are not
eligible
to enter. But we can maybe ask for some more.
So, we got trolled last night by this family member in our virtual
You said we were some
stitch-in.
sexy ladies, though.
I know.
So
well,
that's better than when my son trolls us.
True.
That's not cute.
It's true. It's true.
Sir.
True.
Go do your homework. I don't care if it's summer.
Go do your homework.
But this bundle is conveniently enough to make our Emilio quilt. It's a 5 one-yard cuts from the Retro Minis line, and then a nice background fabric to complete that top.
That's going to look cute. It'll be darling.
It will be
and
darling.
I'm sad that, and I do like the ribbon you chose to tie it
Well,
with.
I didn't want to use the super skinny ribbon, and that's the only color of thicker ribbon that I had. I'm like, dang it, it's orange. Fudge nuggets.
Fudge nuggets. So
we, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about quilt appraising.
Becoming an appraiser.
Becoming an appraiser.
Becoming an appraiser.
Okay. And we're talking about
our worst ideas ever.
Oh, Lord, yes.
There's a reason that the quilt's hanging behind us, which is my quilt, Dresden Garden, which we talked about last episode in Judge's Comments.
Right. So,
hey, what's been up since the quilt show, Lynn?
Well, there's new quilt shops opening in Georgia.
Which is exciting.
Which is very exciting.
Because we had a couple shut down.
Yes. And 2 of them are opening up. One's a traditional fabric store, and one's going to be selling more sewing machine stuff. And so we will definitely let everybody know the more details we get on that. So we are excited about that because they're going to be close to us. And
we're going to make a little road trip. It's
today.
not much of a road trip.
Yeah.
A little site visit?
Yeah, today. So we're going to go see a quilt store that we've been invited to go see. Yeah. So I'm excited.
Post some pictures.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so, Lynn, here's where it is all you.
Well,
because I've never become an appraiser.
Right.
I may have cast appraising looks. I don't think that's the same. It did not require training.
Becoming an appraiser, a certified appraiser, does require training, yes. So the organization that certifies you is American Quilt Society, AQS. And where I took classes was in Paducah at the spring show. I would go up there and take a It's a 3-day class with, you can take extra a couple days, whatever. But a 3-day, all-day class on just the mechanics of becoming an appraiser, what type of stuff you need to know. People bring in quilts that are then discussed in the class. And anywhere from, when you're an appraiser, you appraise anywhere from, brand new made quilts as well as antique and vintage quilts. So you kind of get good at, what you have to be good at is recognizing blocks and when they were first made in history and fabrics. So I would say the first thing you have to do to become an appraiser is go take the classes. Now, I know they teach them in Paducah, but I noticed on AQS website is that they're now teaching them in other show locations that AQS puts on, and I'm pretty sure it's at the Grand Rapids show coming up.
So AQS by nature is a North American organization.
Correct.
What about the rest of the world?
They come, if they want to be certified. I know I took class with a lady from France, and I took class with a lady from Canada. I think there was a lady from England. So I'm not saying that they don't have their own appraisal systems in Europe that I'm just not aware of, but I do know that some of the quilters from international have come to our classes to take appraisal classes. So,
cool.
Yeah. And if there's things in other parts of the world, then I'm just not aware of it.
Yeah.
So
it's not like being a doctor where you have to have a license in every state you operate in.
No. Once you're certified by this national organization, you do have to keep your certification up, which I think I'm due to renew mine soon. You send in more paperwork and that kind of stuff.
Proof hours and
how many you appraise. Or that kind of stuff.
So it's very reminiscent of what my husband went through to become a certified aviation inspector. So he had already had experience, fixing airplanes, identifying what's wrong, things like that. But he went through an intensive program of coursework, and then to maintain his license, he submits paperwork that validates, like, oh, I've spent this many hours doing the work in this year. Here are the,
continuing education classes.
Yeah, here's the plane inspections that I have submitted to the FAA as proof, and none of them have fallen out of the sky.
That's always good. It's not that much pressure on you as a quilt appraiser.
It's not life and death sometimes.
They don't fall out of the sky or have the potential to. But there are, so if you're starting from the very beginning, the first thing I would do is go take classes in Paducah or wherever AQS is teaching it. And then I would find a mentor in your state that's close to you. And that is hard to come by because I know a lot of states don't have very many appraisers in it. I was lucky. There was a certified appraiser here in Atlanta that I contacted and said, I've taken the classes. Can I come watch you appraise and kind of be your apprentice for the day or whatever? And they were wonderful. They took me under their wing. They, taught me what I needed to know, in a real life appraisal situations. And to be honest with you, I just totally agree with that. And at the quilt show that I was just at, I had someone who was mentoring under me. So I really believe that we should always open ourselves up to, sharing information, that kind of stuff.
And all the certified appraisers in the United States, I don't know if they list outside the U.S., but all of them are listed on the AQS website.
Right, yes.
And so you can go and look up where they are, their names are, and contact info.
Yes, and contact info. And that's how I get contacted a lot of times. I mean, a lot of the quilt shops know me, and they'll say, oh, somebody will come in and say, I want something appraised, and they'll give them my name. So I get contacted that way too. But if you're just interested in history, and I think to be an appraiser, you kind of have to have a little history buff in you, in that you don't have to have a history major or anything, but like from college. But the more you know about American history, at least in the quilts that we see in this country, and I'm going to be specific to our country at this point, but the more I know about American history, the more it kind of lends itself to what the quilters were making at certain points in history. And it explains some things, or there's connections there and things make sense. This weekend, I was appraising some quilts, and people brought in some vintage quilts. And they brought in quilts with feed sacks literally printed on the back of the quilt. And so I'm able to date it because I know when feed sacks quilts were made and used in American history, and it was when our country was more agricultural and, you know, that kind of stuff. And so if you know about the regions of the country, what was going on in your area, you know, I think it does lend itself to, if you want to be an appraiser, having a love of history, I think is an important thing. You know what I found out this week, and I thought this was interesting? So, and this is totally a history thing. So during the turn of the century in the early 1900s, they were having problem with the green dye for fabrics, and it was fading really fast. Well, then we got into, but the country that did it really well, where the green dyes did not fade and weren't toxic, was Germany. And then we got into World War I. Well, part of the agreement to end the war is that they had to give us the dye formula for the green dye. I mean, that is just, I just found this out. It was on a historical vintage quilt stuff that was a part of World War I's agreement. And I'm like, wow. Because we were in war against Germany. If you don't know history, we were in war against Germany, and they had to give that information up. So,
thanks, Germany.
Thanks, Germany. We now have green dye, so that doesn't fade. So, but what I was going to say that if you really like this, I would recommend at least 3 books to buy that will get you started on this knowledge, right? So here are the 3 books, because sorry, my voice is a little rough today. The things that you kind of have to know is fabric dating and block dating. So, you know, blocks have not been around throughout all of history. So there are some blocks that didn't come around till the 1920s or the 1860s. There was a block available that, you know, wasn't available in the 1700s, you know, so you have to kind of know a little bit about when they were popular, when you saw them first be in quilts. So the 3 books I would say is these are 2 books, and they're by Elaine Jakin Dresden, and it's Fabric Dating Fabrics, and this one's from the 1800s to the 1960s, and then the other one is Dating Fabrics 2, and this is from 1950 to 2000. And these are, just to show you kind of what they do. So that's the front of it. And then the other thing that's really kind of important, they give you history of the time of when those fabrics were available, but they also show you samples of those fabrics. So when you're dating a quilt, these are really important and easy to use books where you can go, like I saw some quilts this weekend with that indigo print in it. So I know this was from 1880 to 1910 because that's when we saw that print. So this is really helpful in dating fabrics, both of those books. And then the other book, the lady who wrote the Bible of Blocks, is Jenny Beyer. And she wrote the Quilter's Album Patchwork Patterns. And this has got over 4,000 different piece blocks for quilters. And you'll see in here where she'll not only give you this block, but then she'll give you all the different names of this block and then when those were first seen. So you're able to help date what that is, which is kind of an interesting, you know, and then it just gives you all kinds of history of the different kinds of blocks. You know, cross and crown, and it just shows you how blocks change their names according to where they were done, that kind of stuff. But if you are interested in becoming an appraiser, these 3 books, I think, are my most referenced books even today. So I think those are important ones. So history, I think if you like history of our country and just historical things that have to do with that, find a mentor, take the classes, get these 3 books, and you're at least on the starting point.
How long did it take you from when you decided to do it to when you became certified?
6 years. You really have to, after you take the classes, you really need to spend time and do appraising of quilts with a mentor as well as on your own. And you have to appraise so many quilts before they'll even accept your paperwork to come back and take the tests. And it may not have been 6 years. It may have been 4 years. Sorry, I think it was 4. I know it's been over 10 years since I sounded. Yeah, it was 4 years for me to get certified. So after I submitted the paperwork, I got turned down the first time because they didn't think I had done enough to take the test. I went back and retook the classes, and what I did when I retook the classes is I kind of proved in class. Every time they asked a question, I was like, well, I think it's this. And I proved that I knew more. And so one of the instructors said, you're ready to take the test. I was like, yes, I am. So I sent in the paperwork for the next year and was accepted. And then once you're accepted, you go back to Paducah to take the test. And you take a written test, which is a 6-hour written test. It was all day. And then you take an oral exam. So they put you in a room with a stack of quilts and say, appraise them in front of all these judges. So be willing to, it was like getting a doctorate.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you wait and they send you an email saying you're in or not.
And then you get a fancy name.
You get a name badge. Yeah, I get a name badge. So, yeah, that's it. But it's a lot of work. It's very interesting. And once you're certified, all the other appraisers are super supportive and very nice. And so it's a good group of people. So, and I enjoy doing it.
Good.
So if you have questions, let us know.
So we're going to take a little break, take a closer look at Dresden Garden, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back. We are now going to talk about the worst ideas we've ever had.
In quilting.
Oh, okay. That'll help.
We're going to
narrow it down to just quilting. Okay. Because it would have been a long segment otherwise.
Cool, girl.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, what's your worst idea?
This one behind us? No.
I thought you pointed to me.
Oh, no.
Did you at this one? I was like, really? Thanks.
Smooth.
And we're done.
No, every quilt feels like the worst idea ever in the middle of it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Every quilt I've ever done.
And I do feel like, we came up with this topic just because of the process we went through to get both this quilt ready for the show and Identity, which we had on the last show.
Right.
And it was like, oh, why do we do this to ourselves?
I know. And yet, we both said, I'm already thinking about the next quilt. So, like, right now, the next quilt sounds like awesome.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be incredible. Great idea. Talk to me in 6 months or when I'm in the middle of it. It'll be like, 6 months. Oh, my gosh, this is so bad. Why did I decide to do this?
I really feel like there's a big overlap between the segment we did on our bucket list quilts and this. Because if I ever start a Dear Jane, it's going to turn into the worst idea ever.
See, I think I know better than to start a Dear Jane. Because I already know that would drive me a little nuts. Yeah. That I'm going to make another Alice in Wonderland quilt.
Everything is the worst idea ever.
Honestly, it's not that anyone quilts is a horrible idea. I think the stages of the design and quilt process, there's one really significant long stage that is called the worst idea ever.
And it varies
and
by
I
quilts.
Live in that stage, I think, longer than I want to.
Well, I think it varies by quilt because some quilts have super intense piece and you're like, oh my gosh, do I have to make another stupid flying geese unit for that dumb transform quilt?
Right. Yeah.
No.
She did all the flying goose units.
Like, whose idea was it to put binding on that changed colors to go with the quilt top?
Yours.
That was dumb. That was worst.
Whose idea was it to quilt every freaking feather on those,
that was your idea.
and change threads so that it would match
your idea.
Yeah. It was my idea. Worst idea ever. Yeah. When you're doing it. But then when it gets done.
There's like 4 people's bad ideas in one quilt.
Yeah, really.
Whew.
Ugh. But when it gets done, I think you look at it and you go, there's such a sense of pride and accomplishment and relief.
She's talking about childbirth, too. Like, oh, I went through that. Boy, I just threw up a lot for 12 hours. But hey, I got a baby. There's a new person now.
Oh, well, now see, I've not been through childbirth, so there's that.
Pro tip, don't eat red sauce beforehand.
Good to
But
know.
I didn't have to clean it up. I was in a hospital, so it's fine.
So it's good.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's good.
It's fine.
No
Yeah, but
worries.
that whole creative process, whether you're making a really awesome meal and you're afraid you're going to burn the meat, or you're putting work into a quilt and you're like, I don't know if I'm equipped for this.
And you really do try to look around and go, can I blame this on somebody else? Like, can this be somebody else's idea?
Why didn't we just order pizza? Why didn't I just go to Walmart and get a stupid blanket?
I'm telling you, yeah.
Yeah.
But no quilt starts out with the worst idea. Like,
Oh,
I
no.
never look at a quilt and go, oh, that's the worst idea I've ever had. Let's do that one.
Oh, I have thought of things and thought, it's going to be amazingly horrible at some point, but I still want to do it.
Okay, so do you think that that's what happens in the mystery quilts?
Oh, yeah.
That they're like, cut 300 half square triangles, and you're like, really? And
Yes.
yet, when you get done, they're stunning.
No, the worst idea is being bad at math when you do that. Like I did on the last one
That's
with
right.
like 11 frillion 4 patches.
and
I made 11 frillion and a half 4 patches.
Yeah.
It was already a bad idea. Why did I make it worse? And I ended up putting that in a border. And then, of course, I missed like that much, like 12 inches worth of 4 patches.
So you had to make more?
So I had to make more.
Yeah. Or when you start quilting and you're like, oh, these bubbles look great.
Pebbles are always the worst idea. There's somebody else's
And you're
great
still
idea.
doing them and you're like, oh my God, this will, and you've only gotten like 6 inches done. That was, okay, so for me, it was butterflies. Butterflies were the worst idea ever. I never thought those butterflies would get done. I was like, oh my God. And now I have to outline them? Great.
I have proof of all of that, of just all the Facebook messages of like,
You know what's sad? Because my phone went brick mode,
Uh-huh.
I lost all those pictures.
They're still in Messenger, honey. You can download them from there.
Oh, you didn't get half of them. You only got parts
yeah.
of them. Oh, but did I send you the back of it before it went inside? Is that in Messenger?
I think so, yes.
Oh my gosh, good, because I thought I'd lost that, and it was like a really cool pic. All right, well, now I'm going through Messenger.
Yeah. So related, I did use pebbling in this quilt, but only in the center of the Dresden plates and only filling in around like kind of an orange peel design.
Those look great.
So it's like, I'm not going to pebble the whole thing. It's like, let me break it up.
But I do think some of the worst ideas ever take more time than the easiest ideas, and therefore they're worth it. You don't believe me.
I think getting done makes it worth it.
Well, yeah,
think
but you've got to
it's-
push through to get
You
it done.
do. And that's can be tough because this quilt sat unfinished. Like it took 6 years to make, not because I was actively working on it for 6 years. Like I got the Dresden plates done and I got the center background pieced and then and got kind of stuff stuck down and stitched on. And then it sat without any borders for 2 years, 4 years.
Well, now I will say that I started the last Alice in Wonderland quilt when we finished the quilt show. And that was more of a thought process. But actually drawing it, I think it took me 6 months to really, from drawing it to finish quilting.
Yeah.
And the quilting took 2 months. Solid. I mean, it's got 400 hours or 300, I don't know.
A lot of hours.
Freaking a lot of hours. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is to get to wrap up your worst idea ever. Like, if it is truly the worst and it's not turning out the way you want, you can always throw it away.
I heard Victoria, we interviewed Victoria Finley Wolf, and she was like, if this doesn't look good, I just cut it up. Okay. I think that's a little bit more scary for me, but man, she makes some beautiful quilts. And if that's because it looked bad and she decided to cut it up, it's like, oh, okay. But she's very good at that improv kind of aesthetic that is much harder than people realize. It really is. I was looking at the Jackie Gearing quilt I started in her class. It's an improv class. And I was like, maybe I should get that back out again. I didn't. So
do you feel like your worst ideas in quilting open you up for taking more risks later, or do they reinforce the things that you don't want to do?
both. I think that's a true statement with both things. Because, yes, anytime you're doing something and it's outside of your box, it's going to either be, I never want to do it like this again, or it's going to be, I've learned a lesson. How can I do it better? Like, honestly, with the last quilt, the first Alice in Wonderland quilt, I thread painted and all of the thread painting showed on the back. On this Alice in Wonderland quilt, I thread painted to a false back and then put another backing on top of it and quilted it and hid the thread painting inside the quilt. Well, then I put another bat in it. So I had 2 bats on top of the thread painting and then a third bat behind it. So it's really pretty batted. I don't think I'd do that again. I don't think, and this would be interesting for me, I don't think I would use cotton and wool on top if I hide that. I don't know. And I think the next one that I'm going to play with a different technique and see how that turns out. So, but I don't like seeing all the threads on the back of the first Alice in Wonderland quilt because I think they look really messy. And they can see all my bad starts and stops, so let's not give the judges more ideas.
Nope. So the part that I liked about this was the Dresden plates. I like the whole thing, but that's what got me started down the road here. And knowing that my color sense has changed in 6 years, and I do work with a lot more brighter colors, I'm like, would I redo this in my more modern colors?
Oh, that'd be interesting.
It would. So I started. And I don't know if you saw the postcards that I turned in for this show.
No, I didn't.
But I made one, like full flower, with brighter colors. And I was using some scraps and just to see. I shrunk them down a little bit. And I did it. And I'm like,
nope.
I'm not committing to this. These are going to be turned into a postcard. And so I had 2 half Dresden fans. And I turned them into fabric postcards and little messages like, I'm your biggest fan.
Oh, that's funny.
And someone bought them. They weren't left at the end of the show.
No.
But please know, those postcards were derived from this quilt.
There you go.
It was a bad idea. And I nipped it in the bud.
Said, nope.
I might do it one day, but today is not that day.
Today is not that day. Today is not that day. That's from the Lord of the Rings. It's when he goes in front of him and goes, today is not that day.
No, for me, it's from RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh.
And Bianca Del Rio's like, not today, Satan, not today.
Not today is from Game of Thrones. Not today. Anyway, so movie references, check.
Pop culture references, check. All kinds of bad ideas in this segment.
Check. Maybe this segment was a bad idea. It's the worst idea ever. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think us talking about this is important.
But I think you got to give yourself permission. And that's when I did the quilt story. On this quilt, it was like I basically had to give my permission not to finish a quilt, which really
that goes against your grain.
How I work.
Yes.
And I'm glad I did. I mean, maybe if I'd wait another year, I'd have evenly distributed quilting.
Yeah, no.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe I'd still get sick of stupid micro-stippling halfway through.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
The only reason my butterflies stayed the same is because I took...
Because you drew them all.
I took pictures of them, though, and referenced back to the pictures at the top so that I would keep them the same on purpose. So, anyway. All right.
So, we do want to celebrate some of these quilts gone wrong with a giveaway. So,
da-da-da.
We are coming up on the end of our 4th season.
It is.
This is episode 423.
The next episode will be our last episode.
For the season.
Oh, okay.
Don't leave that hanging.
I was going to leave it hanging and then let them go. Oh, my gosh, are they going to be renewed?
Maybe. We'll find out.
We'll find out.
On the next episode. But help us celebrate the end of the 4th season, and you can enter to win our giveaway. So we're actually going to have 2 winners. U.S. residents will be eligible to win this bundle of fabric and a digital copy of our Emilio pattern. And international residents will be eligible to win their choice of 2 of our digital patterns, simply because shipping is expensive. So you can look in the show notes on our website, and we'll link to that in the video description. And you need to enter to win by July 31st, 2019. So knowing that, do you have a quilt that started as a bright idea but maybe ended up a fright idea? Can let us know. You can leave a comment on our blog or the YouTube episode or in our Facebook group, What's Up Stitches. And that's all we have for this episode. Today's show is made possible by our friends at EnMart and QT Fabrics. You can find links to these wonderful companies in the show notes for today's episode.
We'd like to thank 77 Peaches and Big Thing Productions for helping produce The Stitch. If you've enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to turn on notifications on YouTube.
Our next virtual stitch-in is Friday, August 9th at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern. It's broadcast live on our YouTube channel. Our next book club episode is July 26th.
All those details and more can be found on our website, thestitchtvshow.com, along with links to purchase fan gear, quilt patterns, and video classes. Tune in next time for more quilting chat with friends.